Welcome, everyone, to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Awakening Your Kundalini, a step-by-step process to liberate the divine power within. I'm Lisa Bonise, and it's my honor to be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Raja Choudhury and address questions about his upcoming 7-week live video course, Awakening Your Kundalini, which begins Tuesday, March 20th. Later, I'll explain how you can participate in this course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. In a personal quest of over 20 years, Raja Choudhury has comparatively explored most of the great wisdom traditions. Raja's own shift occurred in 2006 when he underwent a dramatic Kundalini awakening that rewired his system and opened up a whole new universe of potential. He went on to create numerous documentary films on wisdom and consciousness, including Spirituality in the Modern World with Ken Wilber. In 2014, he was awarded India's prestigious National Film Award for his film, The Quantum Indians. He's currently making a film for PBS on Swami Vivekananda called First Guru. And Raja gave a TED Talk on Indian wisdom for today's world in 2012 and a TEDx talk on yoga in 2015. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to welcome Raja to the call. Hello, Raja. It's so great to talk to you today.
My pleasure to be here. This is my second interview with the Shift Network, and I'm getting into it. I'm really enjoying myself here. Thank you.
It's so great to have you today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
I am too, and I think that I'm looking forward to the next 7 weeks as we guide people and all the audiences that will come to this and the students that will come into this energy that's sitting quietly inside them, waiting to come out. And I look forward to guiding you in a step-by-step way into opening and awakening this Kundalini energy in you. And I really look forward to welcoming all of you on this course with me. Thank you.
All right, terrific. Well, if you'd like to go ahead and get started, did you want to open the call up a little bit?
What I'd like to do is I'd like to take all of you on a little journey to open up the sounds that awaken the Kundalini in you. And I want you to imagine that at the base of your spine, where you're sitting, there is this energy sitting there, kind of just dormant. And I want you to squeeze your bottom a little bit, like a tightening of your bottom area. And I want you to breathe in like a sucking sound. And imagine a cool breeze rising up your spine, coming up to a lotus above your head. And as you visualize this, imagine it is going through all these centers along your spine and opening them up. And I want you to imagine that there are 3 worlds that we're going to open: in the face, in the heart, and in the yoni, in the muladhara, at the base of your spine. So as I go in, I'm going to make a chant of the 3 worlds, blow downwards and then upwards. And I'm going to do it 3 times. And if you like, you can chant along with me. So here we go. And the 3 words are Aim, Clean, So. And then So, Clean, Aim. So we'll do it together. Aim, Clean, So, So, Clean, Aim. Going down. Aim, Clean, So, So, Clean, Aim, Clean, So, So, Clean, Aim. And with this simple resonant sounds, we're vibrating all the 3 worlds that we live within, and which Kundalini has to travel through as it travels upwards. And these 3 worlds control your entire life. And if you learn this sound you begin to balance and align and become a pillar of light. Thank you.
Thank you, Raja. That was lovely. So we have the rest of our time together to dive into our viewers' questions for Raja as we prepare for his upcoming course. Again, it's called Awakening Your Kundalini, and it begins a week from today, Tuesday, March 20th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit awakeningyourkundalini.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get started with questions. If you have a question for Raja, you can go ahead and type them in, and I will be happy to read them aloud. So let me start with a question that we're actually getting more than one person asking, but let me read Elliot's version. Elliot says, can you please speak about the safety of waking up the Kundalini energy, especially for people who have suffered a lot of trauma? There are a lot of these stories about people going crazy or suffering a lot when this energy is activated. And how can someone who's suffered from a lot of trauma know they're ready to activate this energy?
In the esoteric thinking behind the Kundalini energy, the place where we store all our karma, our memories, our scars, our pain, is in the lower region of our body, in what we call the reptilian brain, in that part of our body which in the Kundalini tradition is called the Brahma Granthi, which is the lower 3 chakras of your body, starting with Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Manipura. Muladhara being the base, Swadhisthana being the organs of our sexuality, and Manipura being at the navel. Now, the problem is that this is where we accumulate all our fear, our pain, our suffering. And 2 things happen when we activate the Kundalini. We work from the ground upwards to light a fire in the belly. And that means that we are burning our bad karma very quickly. And it actually happens faster than you think, because when you learn certain breathing techniques at the base, at the lower levels, and you use certain mantras and sounds like lam, vam, ram, these kind of sounds are the earth and the water and fire elements come into being, and these begin to heal us. And the more we activate this energy, the more grounded we become, the more fearless we become, the more at ease we become with our biology, and all our subconscious accumulated pain and trauma begins to burn away slowly. But another thing happens, because we are lighting a fire. And when that fire is lit, a smoke begins to arise into air and into ether upwards. So we are also creating a passage that allows for a mystical light to descend. And when that light begins to descend, and we are already lighting the fire at the base of our bellies, then this mystical light that comes in from the 3rd sun, from the head, down into you, it actually brings light into everything, into every corner, all the cobwebs and the dark spaces and everything inside you. So you're not only burning your bad karma as you're going up, but you're allowing this light to come in, to shine light into every cell of your body, every part of you. And that also begins a cleansing process. So it's a 2-way thing. So we must begin at the ground up and then allow the light to come in. Only then can Kundalini rise smoothly for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've actually got a couple questions on Facebook here. They're asking about the opening invocation. One person is wondering basically, how do you spell the words that you were sharing with us? And another one is asking, when you perform this chant of the 3 worlds, do you place your tongue to the roof of your mouth to make more of an ng sound instead of the m sound, or are both styles just as powerful?
So in the Kaula Tantra, which is the school of Kundalini that we are going to be sharing a lot of, as well as the Kriya techniques of breathing, what happens is that is the sound of the gentle touching of every vowel and consonant of the Sanskrit letters, like vam, lam. It's a gentle touching of the tongue at the end, at the roof of the mouth on the front part. When you strike it with an anga you are actually forcing an action. So it's more of a Shiva kind of voice, like a lung, vang, rung. There's a kind of power to it. So we are going to use the version, which is the and then a silence that follows. And that creates, which is the third part of Om, it creates a resonance to fill this entire third sun of your head. And when that fills in and you go towards silence, you are actually going towards that Shiva, that empty void of energy that is consciousness above you. So the sound is much more about heading towards infinite silence, while the sound is how to act in the world. It's kind of like a power mantra. So we're going to use both, but I will show you when and where and what the reasons are. When you do Aim, yes, you do end with the tongue touching the roof of your mouth. So you go Aim, Kleem, So, and then So with the yoni, Kleem, Aim. And the spelling is Aim is Aeem, Kleem is Kleem, and So Sauh, and then backwards. So, Kleem, Aim. In the 7-week course, by the third module, we'll be exploring these mantras in more detail, and I'll teach you that it actually represents, Aim represents the stream of consciousness coming down as Saraswati, Kleem represents the heart center, which is Mahalakshmi, and So is reality, truth, Mahakali at the base, at the yoni. So we'll come with all this. We'll talk about all this.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Got a question here from Kay, who says, are there any physical limitations, for example, in the spinal cord that would prevent or make it difficult to awaken one's Kundalini?
You see, one of the not prerequisites as much as facilitating tools we have is the flexibility of our spinal cord when it comes to Kundalini awakening. So it is very important to learn to be flexible. And in the second module, I'm going to teach you a series of energization exercises and flexibility exercises that will open and release this energy along the spinal cord, which is really the cerebrospinal fluid and the vagus nerve. We want this spinal cord to become as flexible as possible. And that doesn't mean that I want any of you to go off and do extreme hatha yoga or postures and Surya Namaskars. It means that through a simple series of very straightforward exercises, even sitting, one can straighten and make the spine flexible. It's very important to do that, because what happens with Kundalini is that we have to wake this energy, and I call it a her because we call it a Shakti. It's a feminine energy at the base of our spine, and it's almost like a dance begins. And this dance requires the spinal cord to go straight, movement through vortices, and then it goes up. And that flexibility of the spine to be able to sit straight for a long period of 5 minutes or 10 minutes or even longer, if you can, once you start practicing, it needed to be there. And so we have to get the spine flexible and the ground base going. That's very important.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I got a question here from Jamila, who says, how likely are we to experience a Kundalini awakening from doing this course? And is it safe to awaken Kundalini when you're taking antidepressants?
See, it depends on the antidepressants you're taking, because Kundalini awakening, particularly the breathing exercises, especially at the navel and the heart center, do release dopamines, oxytocin, serotonin, all start to get released on their own. So there is a natural sense of feeling good that begins to occur. By the time you move up in the second and in the third and fourth module, you will find yourself experiencing what can only be described as a sense of bliss consciousness. which is the heart begins to open, and these chemicals begin to be released through the body, especially through the stomach, and up into the pineal gland and out into the brain fluids and everywhere around the brain. And this is the source of happiness. You begin to feel immense blissful feelings when the oxytocin is released, when the serotonin starts to be released, that feeling of smiling. You feel energy, you start glowing. All this starts to happen. And so there is almost once we move into the heart center, and we're going to work very hard on the lower centers before we get to the heart. Once we get to the heart center, something blissful begins to happen. And all the antidepressants and everything you may be taking, whether there are serotonin uptake inhibitors or there are anything to do with your own states of sleep or serotonin or opiates of any kind, you begin to find the dependence on them becoming less. And this has been verified over and over again by many practitioners, and I'll share some of the medical stuff with you when I do the modules. But there is this beginning of becoming a well-balanced person by the time you get to these two centers of the heart and the throat. So there is an immediate benefit to anybody who's going through mood swings, or, I don't mean that people who are in extreme cases of depression, it will automatically cure your depression. But for most of us, it will allow you to become happier, more steady, and then allow yourself to live in the world properly.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. I've got a question here from Bettina, who says, you mentioned that we should imagine a linga stone being bound with energy at the root chakra. I have several Shiva lingam stones. Would it be helpful to wear one or hold one while doing these exercises?
Very much so, because there are 3 stages to any form of sacred work in the Kundalini Tantra tradition, especially the Kaula Tantra tradition. One is that one projects energy onto an object. So this could be a linga, or this could be a Sri Chakra Meru, like the one I have here behind me on this side. And the one could be a picture or an icon or an image. So, worshipping a godhead or worshipping a Buddha or looking at a beautiful flower. All of these symbols are the first stage of a kind of sacred connection with your higher self inside you. So by looking at something or by wearing something, it is almost like a switch that reminds you that you have this deep energy inside you as well. So that is the first stage of that sacred journey we take. The second stage is that object and I become one. So that linga on my chest that I'm wearing on a chain, or the one in front of me that I'm meditating upon, suddenly disappears, and it and I become one. We dissolve. We go into a state of dhyana, which is the object of your meditation, and you become one. Then the third stage is that there is no object anymore. It has become completely you, and it's totally inside you. And that is called antarmukhi, which is to see inside. And then you need nothing. And so the reason we have ritual, place, temple, mandala, room where you meditate regularly is to create a place where a switch can be turned on. And that can be a little linga you wear, or a beautiful statue you look at, or anything you need, just to get you to that inner seeing. And once you get to the inner seeing, you don't need anything again. Wherever you're standing becomes your temple, and you are the temple. That's the beauty of it.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. I've got a question here from Facebook. This is from Zamina, who says, what if your Kundalini activated and paused at your third chakra? I felt it uncoil, and then it has a pressure on the third chakra. What other emotional things should I address?
Well, the third chakra is the fire center. And when Kundalini reaches the fire center, everything of your past, of your life, begins to show itself to you. And that can be quite a painful experience. So that's why we base ourselves so solidly in the beginning. And this means that your bad, we can call it karma, your bad, negative, accumulated subconscious thoughts, all begin to erupt and show themselves when the third chakra is activated. So I teach a particular type of breathing, which is a rhythmic, almost holotropic breath that lets you, using a mudra and a particular series of breathing and a mantra, allows you to burn your bad karma. And you suddenly find yourself energized by this and getting rid of that fear, that stress, that worry, those little accumulated things. So learning the breathing techniques on the first three chakras, especially the Manipura, which is my first son, our first son, is critical. And here you're going to get introduced to an energy called Chamundaya or Chandi or Durga, which is a fiery female energy of the sun. And when it rises in you and lights a fire in your belly, it burns away all your bad karma. But like the umbilical cord of the mother, of the sacred mother, it is giving you nurturing and life and let you rise up spiritually. So you can go both upwards and burn all your bad karma downwards. So this navel is the critical place where we're going to do a lot of work in our second and third module.
Boy, I can't wait. Thanks. Got a question here from Casey, who, and actually many people are asking similar questions. So the question is, once one's Kundalini has been awakened, how does one stay in that state?
Well, see, for most people, Kundalini goes up, second chakra, third chakra, heart, a couple of times show you a visionary sight, and then goes back down. And we've got to figure out a way to maintain the Kundalini at a certain level. So most adepts who are practicing Kundalini awakening regularly and have aroused the energy in them usually live with the Kundalini energy around the heart center. So it tends not to, with regular practice, you can raise it up to there, and it tends not to descend beyond that too badly. Like for me, when I awoke in 2006, when I had my first dramatic awakening, where before it would spike, it would come back, and it would spike and come back, and I'd have these exhilarating moments of visionary things, and I'd feel things, and electric charges would go up my spine. But when this happened, something opened in my heart that just would not go away. And it was a kind of friend that was living behind me, latched onto me. And it's still there all the time. I'm talking about it, I'm talking to you, and I begin this pulsing starts. Boom, boom, boom. And I think that if I can even begin to describe it, it is like having a constant friend reminding of your true self all the time. So that every time you're about to go off and think a negative thought or do something difficult or stupid for yourself, this comes along and starts vibrating. So our objective is to get past our animal nature in the lower sense parts of ourselves, to open the human nature in us, in our heart, and to live in that heart, and then to take little adventures upwards into the higher regions of the yogis and yoginis up there. And this, I believe, is how one gets to that Kundalini awakening. So what I would like to say on this is that some of you might have an immediate Kundalini awakening with me, and Shakti will flow right up to your spine, but you may not be able to sustain it. So I will teach you techniques of how to get it up to your heart and then open your third eye and then come back to your heart and try and live in the heart center and see how that works.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Got a question here, another Facebook question. This is from Tangai, who says, can you explain how yama and niyama in yoga are linked to Kundalini awakening, because it's the most important step before mantras and pranayamas?
See, when people start doing yamas and niyamas in yoga, they tend to think of it as rules or codes of conduct, but it's not really. It's more an attitude towards life. One is it's almost like Buddha says, in the Four Noble Truths, where in the Eightfold Path, where we talk about how we telling the truth, feeling good thoughts only, vibrating in a particular way, not hurting anybody else. These practices are moral values that we cultivate to create a better, compassionate heart that we can exude from. Now, yama and niyama are important mental attitudes towards the practice. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to now, cleanse my nose and be a strict vegetarian and I'm going to give up everything. In yoga, it doesn't mean that. It means that I take on an attitude of things I do well in the world and things that I refrain from because I know they hurt others or hurt me in some way. Then I decide to go further into asana and pranayama, which is the beginning of breathing energy all around me, into me through prana. And then I go up and sit correctly so that I don't move at all. So in Kundalini activation and awakening, yoga's part is the part that begins with after pranayama. And so the yoga schools, in fact, the origins of yoga, Patanjali never mentioned Kundalini ever, because it was considered to be a sexo-yogic energy that was part of the Sushumna, this middle passage in the spinal cord, that was activated by converting the sexual energy into that canal, into that passage, and lifting it up. And so it has always been a way of connecting to source, connecting to the higher regions of your being through the world, meaning through music and dance and sexuality and art and food. It's a beautiful way of doing it. So Kundalini belongs very much to a tantric tradition, while yoga never dealt with that part. Yoga said, bring the body to stillness, bring the mind to stillness, and then experience samyama, the state of turiya, the samadhi state, that one becomes completely aware of everything and your body is completely still. Now, Tantra on the other side says, yes, that is the destination, but by any means possible. So that is the difference between the two.
Okay, thank you. For those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Raja Choudhury, learning about his upcoming course. It's called Awakening Your Kundalini, and it begins Tuesday, March 20th. And you can log on to awakeningyourkundalini.com for all the details and to register. So let's get back to the questions here. I think this is a good follow-up. This is from Maggie, who says, I've never been very interested in yoga and don't suppose I ever will be. However, I find the concept of Kundalini awakening fascinating and would like to take the course. Is it possible to do one without the other?
I think my previous answer gave that away, which is that the two do not come from the same origin, though yoga and Kundalini have merged in the last few hundred years. And many schools of Kundalini do practice, call it yoga, Kundalini yoga, for example, or Kriya yoga. But Kundalini is an energy that you wake up through breath, sound, visualization, action. And as it rises in you, you experience a bliss, inner seeing, inner hearing, and inner feeling that is a very experiential journey. It is not about the body and being perfect and being physically aligned, and it's not about that. It is about finding yourself sacred, your body sacred. It's almost the highest form of loving yourself. Because if you see your body as a temple, and these 7 centers are the core journey that this temple we go through in the 3 regions of our worlds, then each of the 7 has petals. And there are 108 sounds that one can map through the whole body. So it becomes an exquisite journey of sound and mantras and breath and visualization that triggers this explosion. So yes, yoga absolutely helps, but it's not essential in the awakening of the Kundalini.
Okay, thank you. I got a question here from Brenda who says, whenever I meditate, my body spins and I get afraid and bring myself out of it. Why does that happen, and what could I do to stop being afraid?
When the Kundalini energy begins to rise, especially down in the Yoni and Muladhara area around, all the lower three centers, it almost does feel like a vortex of energy swirling around. You feel this motion. And when it gets into your head, sometimes it can also feel like liquids are swirling and energies are swirling around your head. And of course, that can be terrifying. So when we do it, we're going to work ground up. That means we're going to raise this energy slowly and see this vibrating sequence of activities. Most experiences that happen without going that direction are literally hallucinations. They are bursts of this Kundalini energy triggering a sensory overreaction in you, which is the equivalent of taking an acid trip or taking a ayahuasca or something like that. You're getting a vision or a feeling or a series of sounds that lasts for a few minutes or an hour, and then you're gone. It's gone and you can't get it back. So our job is to go way down into the Muladhara and address and invoke the energies from there and then lift it up. And when this starts, the vortex will start at the bottom. You will be in like a dancer navigating it. You will see the illusions for what they are and realize that the true bliss is actually in your journey and not some external thing that'll happen to you. And then, you have me along for the next 7 weeks. So I'll hold your hand and I'll help you along. And just at the right time, I'll even push you over the precipice so you'll get into the deeper areas. But that moment you stop being scared, another door opens. That's the beauty of this sequence.
Okay, thank you. Got a question here from Connie, and she seems to be referencing the conversation you had with Stephen, the intro call, where she says, you talked about the second chakra as being the place where a new life is created out of love. But what if one's body was created through an act of violence or abuse? Will that affect the Kundalini?
You see, this goes back to our issue with the third chakra, is that the sperm and the egg do not know the nature. At the Muladhara, it does not know the nature of the relationship between the father and the mother, or the donor and the egg. It does not know that. The second chakra is where the erotic nature of the love is manifested. So if a child is created without the second chakra being activated for both parents, or one and some partially one and one the other, then you are going to have karma accumulated which has to be dealt with at the third chakra. And this is something that can be worked on through understanding this fire process and the fire at your stomach. So what I'm going to do when I do this work with you is I'm going to show you that no matter where you came from, all karma can be handled, can be burnt, it's almost like lighting a fire and throwing all your ill thoughts, your experiences, your pain, your regression back to your gestation into that fire and saying, I give it up and let the smoke rise and cleanse me. And it's almost like a ritual burning that we do. And that's why it's called a yagya in India, where you burn the fire and you put butter into it and you do all kinds of things. But imagine that fire is actually sitting inside your belly. And so this karmic burning we can do there, and we'll work on that together.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Another Facebook question here. This is from Tushar, and the question is, how would one know that Kundalini has reached the third eye and is staying there?
So what you'll find is that when you perceive certain See, there are three stages in the Kaula Tantra tradition of Kundalini awakening. The three stages are first you have inner hearing. That means the mantra you use induces an inner sound that is core to you. So if I say the sound lam or vam, I can activate different centers in your body just by doing that. And this is the beginning of Shakti that I'll teach you when we do it together. This energy will flow from me to you. But when you do that and you understand the sounds, you begin to hear these sounds inside you. You close your ears, you close your senses, and you begin to hear them. The second stage is that lights and visions begin to appear. At first, it'll be tremendously dramatic hallucinatory experiences. You might see archangels or goddesses or eyes or sacred beings that come to guide you, or ancestors. All these things come to you, and they do come at you. But once you realize that there is a deeper guiding light behind all that, that light begins to come through. And there is a visionary experience of that light coming through in the third eye, at about 3 feet in front of you and above you. And when that starts to come in, you know that you're not dealing with hallucination anymore. Something is coming. And the third stage, when you really know that your third eye is awakened, is when your heart opens and you begin to feel this bliss consciousness pouring into you, like elephants pouring nectar into you or amrit into you. It is like a bliss consciousness begins to occur. And that feeling is when you know you are beginning to be awake. So you will see, you will hear, but oh my God, you will feel.
Okay, thank you. Got another Facebook question here. This is from Andrea, who says that most of the time when you're talking, you're jumping from the heart to the third eye and leaving out the throat chakra. And Andrea says, as my throat chakra is closed, I suppose this is the chakra I would have to do the most to open it up. Can Kundalini rise if the throat chakra is closed?
Okay, so this is going to be a very major part of our fifth module, because you can't get to the pineal gland and the third eye without going through the throat. So whether you do it in Qigong or whether you do it in yoga, or whether you do it with Kundalini, the circuit that we draw in the Kundalini is a very interesting circuit. We actually do a circuit that goes Muladhara, base, up to the back of the neck, over the head to the Agya, to the third eye, then down to the sex, Swadhisthana, and the sex organs, and then up chakra by chakra, up to the throat. And at the throat, we're dealing with the ether component, space, akasha. And here, what that means is that you must be ready to dissolve all your ego, your me, I, ahankara, this I-ness, this I am, this little I am, has to dissolve into the big I am. Now, what that means is that I come to this point, and it's almost like that challenge that you read about in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where I think it was Horus questions the seeker and says, is your heart as light as a feather? If it is not, and they weigh it on a weighing scale, and if it's not as light as a feather, you go back into the samsara, into the world, and in Egyptian tradition, you get eaten up by crocodiles, but in Indian tradition, you go back into the wheel of life. Now, what that means is that, have I come to my throat, and am I ready to let go of my ego, of my identity, of myself? And the word used, the mantra in Tantra that's used here is Dhram. Dhram means dissolve, dissolution, complete vaporization. So just imagine, I've come through earth, water, fire, air, the four centers. But by the time I get here, I have to give up everything and become vapor. And that's the key. So the throat is the gatekeeper to allowing you, and it happens to coincide with the thyroid, and the heart coincides with the thymus. So thymus makes the whole energy systems work and the T cells work and everything work in your body, and the heart sends that pranic healing to all your cells so you're well. And then the thyroid allows you to regulate all the hormones properly, and suddenly you're in this bliss state of consciousness that you can go in. Then you're allowed up, and we call it the Hamsa, where you go from the back of the head up over your head, and you open the third eye, and then you go into the pineal gland. So this journey, absolutely, the throat is the critical part. And it's not that it's blocked. I have a big problem with the idea of blocked chakras. I think that what it is that it's not been awakened yet, and we are going to wake it up.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have plenty of time for more questions, but before we take those, I want to give a few details about the course. Again, it's called Awakening Your Kundalini, and this is going to be a really powerful 7-week journey under Raja's expert guidance, obviously expert guidance, where you'll safely activate the evolutionary energy at the base of your spine to access unlimited bliss consciousness. And the 7-week course takes place on Tuesdays at noon Pacific, starting Tuesday, March 20th. And if you can't join us live, plenty of people are asking about this. That's not a problem. You will not miss the teachings. You will receive both audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. Also, I'd like to remind you that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, and we'll be giving you a full 2 weeks until April 3rd, in this case, to make sure that it's a good fit. Also, as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Awakening Your Kundalini bonus collection. First, you'll receive a video from Raja entitled Kundalini Awakening Meditation. Next, you'll get another video recording from Raja called Mantra Compilation. Then you'll receive an ebook from Raja titled A Guide to Kundalini Awakening. And next, you'll get a video hosted by the Shift Network's very own Philip Helmick, featuring numerous experts, entitled The Roots of Yoga. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Tuesday, March 13th, you'll receive these additional bonus gifts. First is another video from Raja Choudhury, this one entitled 3 Worlds Meditation. And then you'll receive one more video featuring Anand Mehrotra and Saul David Ray called The Deeper Essence of Yoga. So before we get back to the questions, Raja, let me ask you, what are you most looking forward to sharing in your upcoming course?
Whenever I teach and I initiate and we start vibrating together, I always ask my students to leave everything behind before they come into the room or into this virtual space we are creating together. And because it is 2 critical components: is an empty kind of vessel to receive new energy and Shakti, and an open mind to kind of take an adventure, a quest together. And I think because it is a quest, I just love watching how people unfold in this journey through the stages we're going to go through. Because it is like these series of aha moments start happening and connections start forming, and you begin to realize that all these practices you've done in your life, all these things you've read, all these things you know intuitively you had in you, they're all connected, and they all begin to come together and fall into an alignment. And so by the time we get to the end of the course, you have seen this weave come together. And in fact, the word Tantra really is not about sex. It means a weave, a methodology, a technique of getting in any way possible to the source. And that's what we try and do. So this is what I enjoy the most, is the journey.
Beautiful. I'm looking forward to it as well. I'll be there the whole 7 weeks. Let's go back to the questions here. We've got one from Sonia. This is again from Facebook. Sonia has noticed that you've mentioned the yoni a few times, and she's asking, is this addressed only to women? And if not, can you explain what this should mean for men? Sure.
Well, I think that, first of all, there's a concept in Tantra called Adishwara, which is that all of us have a masculine energy and a feminine energy. And this duality does not mean gender. It means energies and processes in our body, or Shiva and Shakti, that keep uniting in us. So sometimes in the day or in my life, I am genderless. Sometimes I am extremely sensitive and I'm open to receiving, which is what the feminine trait means, which is that I am open to receiving and manifesting and creating. See, the male energy cannot create anything by itself. It is a passive consciousness energy. It is Shiva. Shiva means formless. And Shiva cannot come into the world without Shakti, which is the feminine energy that receives that consciousness and manifests it into atoms, into particles, into forms, into life, into everything we are. So the moment Shiva enters me through the top of my head, I become Shakti. So every person, every being, every life form is a Shakti in manifestation with Shiva elements going through them. And this spinal cord is the central pillar where all these dualities dissolve. But what we do have is on either side is that they believe, and they describe it like a serpent, that it intertwines over and over again until it comes to this point at the top of your head where it unites, where Shiva and Shakti unite, and you become one with cosmic universe and the universal consciousness. Now, wherever you are, the yoni, even a man has an equivalent of a yoni. And a yoni is not just a vagina. A yoni is the receptacle through which one enters into the consciousness. So if you look at the ancient script, the statues and of early Neolithic mother symbols, they are always of a large-breasted woman with the legs open with the yoni clearly for you to go into. So you're not only coming out of the mother, you're entering back into the mother to get back to the source. Now, this is a very key concept. So the yoni is a concept of re-entering at the place of sexuality back into that cosmic energy. Now, that's a very key point to remember. So in the course, I will go into the biology and the sexuality of the 7 chakras and what they really mean to you. And I hope you will join me in learning and discovering all those stages together.
Okay, thank you. Got a question here. This is from Yasu, who's asking, how likely really is it to awaken the Kundalini by doing this course? And how would you describe your success rate? What would be the biggest obstacle? And for whom is this course suitable?
Well, one of the things I'd like to share with you, and I'll just give you an example. When we chant a sound, like Shri, Shri, Shri. When you hear a sound like that, or you hear a song at 432 hertz, or you hear music at different solfeggio rhythms and frequencies, something happens in your body. You may not know it, but centers are opening to try and receive this energy. And the body is like a series of switches that once you turn on one switch inside with a sound or a feeling or a visualization, something in the cosmos around you and inside you goes on as well. And this leads to an awakening. So when I call Shri, I'm opening this energy which we call Mahalakshmi into my heart. And some of you will be feeling your heart tingling right now. Some of you will be feeling energies flowing into you as the heart goes through you. Now, imagine being able to take that energy and working with me, sense it at every stage so that you're aware of what it feels like for Kundalini to move through that center. Now, this is the journey I'm going to teach you how to take. So by the time we're done, we will have experienced all 6 centers as the Kundalini rises up to here. But the 7th center is not in our control. That is where the grace will descend. And that is where the light descends. And that we have to be ready to receive that. And that can take some people a few days. And some people, like me, I had to wait 7 years for it. So when that happens, you will know. But you will taste the journey, and I will give you my Shakti, and you will experience a beautiful feeling. That I promise you, and you will know how to map it and try and do it yourself. And I'm there afterwards for you to talk to. I will also be, by the way, in the Facebook group to answer questions, and I'm active on social media, so you can always reach out to me, and I'll be there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let's see. We've got a question here from Helena who says, will everybody experience visual seeings? I've never been a visual person. I have more of a feeling and knowing.
Yes. As I said earlier, there are three ways to experience the Kaula, the Kundalini. One is through sound, the other is through light and vision, and the other is through feeling. And they're all equally valid. In fact, feeling is the ultimate state. So you're lucky because you're going to get past all the hallucinations quicker than everybody else. They're all going to have an ecstatic vision of things while you'll be happily going towards bliss consciousness. So good for you. And I think that don't worry about it. Not everybody sees anything, but when it happens, good God, enjoy.
Okay, terrific. Let's see. We've got actually several people asking this. Let me read Lisa's version of this. She's asking, do you have to chant the mantras out loud, or can you simply mentally repeat them, or alternatively, listen to the words chanted through a recording to get the same results?
I'm going to go into this in the course, but a mantra is a resonant frequency. So it has nothing, forget the meaning for a second. The meanings help. They give you conceptual constructs and models, and they give you, there are two parts to a mantra that are critical. The first part is to say it or feel it correctly. So by doing it loudly, what happens is that you're vibrating a particular frequency that the energies around you are picking up. So the air around you, the rocks around you, the plants around you, the people around you start vibrating with it. So people who are on that frequency, or people who are, or energies that are waiting to hear that click go on, are looking for that. And when they hear it, they come to you. When there are three stages to a mantra. One is to do it loudly. The other is to do it with your mouth, but without any sound. And the third is to do it internally, antar sound. So if one practices a loud mantra, one can go through quickly towards a silent one, but one has to practice it loud at first. It helps dramatically. Okay.
Okay, terrific. Wonderful. All right, let's see if we can get one more question in there. Let's see. Michael wants to know, could you sing the chakra sounds in order from one's base to one's crown?
Sure. In fact, in most traditions, there are 6 sounds and the crown is silent. But in certain traditions, there are 7 sounds and then the crown is silent. So I'll do the sounds for you in one go to the Om sound in the third eye. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Nam. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham. Om. It is in the silence when the Om finishes that samadhi occurs. That is the deep meditation. That's when it occurs. You die at that moment and then you're reborn in the breath that comes in every time. It's a cycle. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, looking at the clock here, we're about out of time. And this has just been a fascinating hour. We could talk for hours. In fact, if you want to hear more, sign up for the course. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your fantastic questions. We didn't get near close to answering all of them. Awakening Your Kundalini starts Tuesday, March 20th. And again, you can visit awakeningyourkundalini.com to learn more and to register. So before we go, Raja, do you have any final words for our listeners?
I think that all of you that have been here today with me and heard me speak before understand that everything is about vibration. When we start vibrating together, something magical happens. Something inside us and something outside us comes to join us. And it's a wonderful resonance that begins to occur. And so learning to resonate like that, that's the key to Kundalini awakening. That's what I want to teach you. And so before I go, I want to just chant a few sounds for you. There's a lovely sound I said earlier called Shreem, S-R-E-E-M. And if you repeat that over and over again, it comes in through the heart, through the neck. It's like a golden energy around you with a little white pearl in the middle of your heart. And I want you to imagine that little white pearl in the middle of your heart. Close your eyes and blue sky above and a golden light like an egg around you. And just chant with me 3 times the sound Shreem slowly. Shreem. 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 And then I want you to send out peaceful vibrations to the whole world. And with your hands facing forward, chant with me Om Shanti 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 3 times. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, this has been an absolutely delightful conversation. Thank you again, Raj. It's been such a good time talking to you today.
Thank you for having me.
And once again, I want to thank everyone who joined us. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.